what I have tried to say, a rational and logical framework that relates an event with the cause. So a scientific inquiry is always that something is seen, like the lady just now said. Everything is in the purview of the science, even the way I speak, why I speak in a particular tone or what a frequency, and all those issues. The scientist will say, these are the causes of what is happening, this particular voice, and so on and so forth. So anything that is happening in the universe, a scientist ought to observe that event, and then logically try to make it what are the causes. Now, like Vinayji said, you just cannot say these are the causes. You have to go to a laboratory, prove it, quantifiable data, whatever all that is. So there is a long process, and that's what all makes up what we call science. I hope that this is more or less sums up what we have discussed. Let's go to the next slide.
So I think that was an easy question to get everybody started. We will now make it a little bit more challenging.
That being the case, and we seem to be living in the age of science, the question is, why do we need a religion?
Okay, Vasudha, go ahead.
Because science has not explained life and death.
That contradicts this other lady who said, sorry, I don't know many names, but he said everything is under the purview of science, but here we are listening, something is, science is not much taking interest into it, or they are not able to get into the scientific framework of that event.
What happens after death? Science has not shown that.
Yeah, of course, there is something called death when our certain organs, vital organs stop functioning. But I am sure what Vasudha has in mind is before birth, after death, what is happening. Those are the issues which are not quite established. Some people say something, others people say something. So there is a lot of gray area, and that's where religions are able to jump into. But I don't want to say anything. Others are also urged to make their inputs. Yes, to decide.
Go ahead,
Richard.
Sorry.
Richard, you
I feel like
then it makes my job easier.
And then
I feel that religion is one way that it brings people together. They have something in common, and then you can speak to each other, and it makes it more relatable. So when you live in a society, you get a sense of belongingness. Maybe that's the reason it kind of started.
Would you accept this answer as religion? I would say this is more cultural affinity.
But I think, everybody has a reason, right? So I think all answers are acceptable, right? Because everybody has their own view. So thank you for that, Jyoti. I think, yes, जब आप एक परिवार से जुड़ते हैं, you get that feeling of
Why should science not be able to do that? It doesn't go against science. Why do we need religion for this purpose? To connect to others, a sense of belonging. Why don't we can rely on science?
So I think we can all relate to why we are here.
Because all scientific bodies also have a lot of fraternity.
Indra Gautam, namaskar. So, sorry आचार्य जी पहले साइंस के बारे में थोड़ा रफ लेकिन सिंपल उसमें थोड़ा एक बात बोलूँगा कि science is based on facts. Science is the basis for experiment and for the fixed results. And science is the mother for the innovation, for the research, technology, and for the future. So I would not go with very theoretical definition of science, but this is what I will link the science. Religion, a stage will come when science doesn't work. And at that time, your religion is the faith. That's why you need the religion. Your religion give you confidence, your faith in about the science. So I consider religion is a faith. And if I link both science and religion, so when science doesn't work, the religion works. And if you live with that, and it gives you power, it gives you strength.
Thank you. एक दो बात और we have just one more आपको मैंने बताया sorry
Namaskar, my name is Bharat. Science and religion both are interesting because science gives you logic that presents logic for everything around you. But what religion does is how to perceive those logics to me, to my understanding. So religion is more intellectual thing with how do you perceive the things around you. If just a simple example, right? If you take a plate as an adult, you won't play with it, but as a kid, you will play with it in a different way. So religion teaches you how to perceive the different things around you. Even if it is science, the same facts, religion will teach you how to connect with the different people, with the different things. But it's just a sort of internal science that goes with the religion. Like to me, both are connected to some extent, and both are separated as well.
I think for me, astrology religion is a little bit more personal thing. It is, how you internalize life and your interaction with the world. Not everything is fun if it is black and white. Sometimes it's nice to have a little bit of gray and a little bit of, subjectivity in life and not proof. And I think that's what faith is. A couple of people have said that faith is not. So I think those all will answer after answer taken.
Here we are saying, as we all understand, science wants to go into all the aspects of life, all the things that happen in the universe. But there are limitations. It doesn't happen. It doesn't have answers to everything. That is where religion wants to come in. And people want to look at religion because science doesn't give all the answers. So basically what are we seeking? We want to improve, that is the bottom line, to improve quality of life. Everybody wants peace and happiness. And we are within our limitations, but somehow we want to improve our quality of life. And we know it, we are benefiting from science. Like I think somebody said, it can give things. I would give an example to what Bharatji said is, science can tell you, I am man, they are women, my hormones are like that, their hormones are like that. But there is some vision that requires that I can look at a woman like my sister. That is a slight deeper understanding that you want to converge to, and that's where something else is required. So science may deliver new objects, but does not necessarily deliver happiness. People have religion, people hope, that's why they go to the top there. Hope religion may give something peace within which everybody is seeking. And it doesn't come automatically from material objects, from scientific thinking, but they need them. And there is no other alternative. So they go to religion, and of course that's where the things will come. Because ideally, religion should be scientific religion. But since it is not, there is multiplicity of religions and many other issues. And nowadays, a lot of conflict and all that is also due to religion. So things are not that clear as far as a common man is concerned. He is benefiting from science, something is missing, he goes after religion, but there also something is not that all good. So that is the situation we are finding ourselves in. And then we ask, where do we stand here? Okay, let's move on further. Why do some people not like to benefit from religion? We are saying religions tend to give us something, but still there are a lot of people who ab initio say, we are not interested in religion. What could that be? You can add your reports.
Sanjay.
So I go back to the previous one and connect this. Yeah, so I'm thinking very contrary to the traditional. I think this is a very intellectual conversation. So I'm going to go to a little more fundamental. I believe that religion could also have been a cause because there were a lot of illiteracy. People did not understand science. They did not have all the answers from science. And so religion was an easy way to go and say, a faith, this is what I believe in, this is how it might be happening. And then there were people who were educated who took advantage of that, and they might have kind of created the religion to guide or misguide, whichever way we may want to look at it. But it's the same thing here, that if that was the cause of the religion being formed in the first place, then some people who are more intellectually oriented or more scientific oriented may not take the benefit from the religion, because they'll say, oh, I don't have the answers in the religion either, so why do I need to go there? I am educated, I can figure it out myself to the degree I can. And sometimes when people are educated, they actually have this difficulty to kind of blindly accept something which cannot be proven scientifically. And so I believe that that is the case. I put myself in that same bucket, that I have a lot of difficulty sometimes accepting, especially when somebody says अपने आप को सौंप दो, तो मेरे को बड़ी मुश्किल होती है कि मैं कैसे सौंप दूं और क्यों सौंप दूं, you know. So I think that is the reason why people are not able to benefit from religion, maybe.
So I agree with Sanjay completely, and I just want to add on a little bit. Religion may have started with a very good intention, bringing people together, stories and pass on generation, but at some point maybe to control people because of the number, maybe some ruler, maybe some priest got together to, hey, how can you control them? So you impose some sort of sanctions if you don't follow, if you go against, so that you can keep them in check and rule them, govern them.
I think there are good answers. Maybe some of the things started in a different spirit, and over time have gotten distorted, contorted by a certain group of people, and that's what alienates a section of the society. And then, of course, there are thinkers, engineers, scientists who want a little bit more intellectual evidence or ideas that can be more convincing about religion. And if you don't get that, that can also alienate you. Okay, one more about Mrs. Ajay.
In my experience, religions have become dogmatics, and they have created as many wars, as many deaths, as much enmity and division as anybody else can think of. You know, whether it's Roman Catholics, Protestants, whether it is Shivites or Vaishnavites, whether it is Hindu and Sikhs fought, you know, it can be just as much a force. And then dogmatic, there's some Shiv Sena, you know, सिर ढको, लड़कियों को पढ़ना नहीं है, स्कूल नहीं जाना है, girls should do this, girls should not do that. The dogmatism of the religion has been a source of such offense that many intellectuals like to keep away from it.
Yeah, that's the, you know, as the word from Smith, it's not black and white. So science is very wonderful, but is not able to take us along to all the aspects. Though the scientists will say, we want to investigate all the issues, but there are many issues where there is no clear verdict, and that's where religion jump in, and then even the founder of religion might have had a positive intention, but as things go down the timeline, the followers may have different ideas, because there is an entity to control the power, and so many other issues arise. And that's why this is the question, where do we stand? On the side of the science or religion, or we have some other idea? So let's look at what the picture is. Religions require you to accept an idea that may not meet your intellectual scrutiny, you know. And that's why many people, they say we don't like to follow any religion. Though they know it, science does not have all the answers that any intelligent person is interested in. Where I came from, what will happen, what is after death, what is the purpose of my life, what is this conscious. There are so many questions where there is no clear answer from science also. That's why we have this question here. Where do we stand? Let's move on.
Acharya ji, can you go back to slide
maybe the question can be put other way. Why do some people are not able to benefit from religions? Instead of saying, why do some people not?
What would you like to frame it as?
I'm saying that instead of not like, everybody like to benefit from religion. I don't think in this world there is anybody who will say I don't like to benefit. I don't think. But I think the question should be, why do some people not able to benefit from religion? And then the answer is because...
I have prepared all these slides in the last 1 hour.
Oh, okay.
It's not that. You can change the words.
Got it.
And anyway, I am trying to talk about real athletes who will say I have nothing to do with it. There are all kinds of people in the world.
Acharya, one thing, like, again on this thing, sometimes even I feel like when you say real atheist, I feel like why I need religion when it brings so much of hatred around the world, when people are getting so polarized. And sometimes I feel why I need to look beyond death or before birth. I should do my duties as a good human being in the present world.
Every individual has a very different perspective. So that's how we are looking at it. That's the bottom line here. That science is very nice but incomplete. Religion look good, but then there are problems, the multiplicity and then conflicts and all that. And then somebody may say, let's forget about what we don't know. Let's make good use of today, tomorrow, and this. Then again there are issues, of course philosophers have thought of all these possibilities. There is no clear answer to all these things. And that's why we are studying what should be our approach, the optimum thinking in this particular scenario.
I have one more question.
Time is going very fast. I brought Medaji so that people speak out, but now I am looking at the clock. We are looking at the number 4. It's not numbered, but I know it. And we are 15. And my dear friend Ankit has given me a task. So at the last point, I have to make certain point. So, let's go fast. But she is controlling person.
I don't think I'm going to be like after this. What is missing in science that religions exist in the present age of science? That exists in religions.
I think it is the same thing. That's not your first time. If you want, you can, a correct formulation for the system. This is a very complex system. Standing in front of you, what is a human being, is it not? And particularly human mind, how does it function? So this is something, and further deeper than that, what I think Vasudha said, meant probably what is this consciousness, and where does it come from and all. These are the issues actually you want to build upon. So I will say the problem, this is classical question, who am I? So like just now the observation was there, that let me forget about my past life, my future, let me look at my current situation. But then again the question is, and I hope you will agree with me, this assessment, that if I don't know what is this thing, I cannot make use of it, is it not? If I don't know what this thing is, my life, I cannot make use of it. I cannot plan my 50 years unless I know this system. And this is where it finally boils down to, who am I? Why am I here for? And what am I seeking? Because even the next day, a lot of conflicts will come, is it not? If I do morally something right, then I lose certain things. So all these things are day-to-day questions in our life. And that's where we want to know, what is my life? Who am I? And then how do I maximize what I am supposed to maximize? That also is not clear. If we say I want to be happy, happiness is also very subjective. So there are no clear answers to even the obvious question. That's why we are trying to understand. So I am trying to converse to certain specific issues. Am I just the body and mind or something beyond it? So let's now again open up from the next slide. What are we?
I think that's something beyond body and mind? How am I different from so many things in the whole? What is the so-called consciousness?
So, now we are converging. This is the question, who am I? I am different from so many things in the hall that I am conscious being, these are also material things, but we know it. They lack consciousness and I have. That's where we see how the classical Indian thought process can guide us. What is this consciousness? So here we can open out. I think many of you will have some ideas, and we are quite familiar with what current state of science is guiding us, that the brain and certain electrochemistry taking place that gives rise to consciousness, and when it doesn't function like that, then we are dead irreversibly over the end of it. And is that acceptable to you or us? Should that be acceptable, or should we demand more from the scientists? These are something you can contribute to.
I think one of the things that we usually hear in this context is the body, the mind, and the soul. So is the consciousness something that you would relate to your soul? Or how do you all think about consciousness?
I relate it to the force, right, within us. Life force is what we call. We were chatting about this actually a couple of weeks back. I think pran is the term that we use. So that's what differentiates or distinguishes myself with the rest of the matter around us. So the life force or the pran within ourselves.
So it is different from body and mind.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, body is physical matter. Physical matter, right? And then mind is an entity there. But besides these two entities, you still have something which is kind of serving as a life force within myself, which is governing, which is guiding the consciousness of each individual.
I think it is the most complex, most inscrutable question. All the religions will tell you it's the same consciousness that is within you, is within me, is within everybody, and that's why we should love it all. Yet the same consciousness, some people are going and shooting people, and some people are working in the hospitals, sleepless nights trying to recover somebody. If it's the same consciousness, how does it manifest so differently? What is the science behind it? How can it be the same consciousness, yet somebody is born a cripple, another person is born a genius?
Maybe the same consciousness means, like these two chairs are same, somebody says that. They are identically same. But same doesn't mean they are one chair, two chairs are two chairs. But they are similar. So, what by same consciousness, it may mean that your consciousness has certain attributes, my consciousness has the same attributes. But yours is yours, mine is mine. But still they are same in the sense, like two lamps are same. But it's not that they are one lamp, they are two different lamps. So, sometimes in the literature you may hear, we all have the same consciousness. What that may mean is, our individual consciousness, mine is A, yours is B, somebody else is C. But all those A, B, and C have the same attribute. So that may also be the meaning of we all have the same consciousness.
No, I beg to differ, because if you give the example of these two lamps, one lamp
only after 40
one
minutes.
has 8 watt, the other one has like 20. This consciousness is so different in various different.
Consciousness is very complex issue.
Yeah.
Like my hand is waving. My hand looks like conscious. But this hand doesn't have its own property of consciousness, because there will be certain times of the day when this hand doesn't have consciousness. So at this point, this is borrowing consciousness from somebody, or some other consciousness is driving it, like your car is driving, you are driving your car is moving, but car is not moving by its own because the driver is there and he has initiated certain things. That's why the car is moving. So when we say, like a scientist is saying, the brain is functioning and that is giving rise to consciousness. So, I am saying, of course you know it, my objective is to converge to a particular Vedic philosophical framework, and finally the questions will be boiling down to this brain functioning in a particular manner makes me behave like conscious. I accept that. From Vedic philosopher's point of view, there is no problem. But I will say that is not the cause of consciousness. That is the fact that there is a consciousness inside. That's why brain is functioning like that. So seemingly there are similar observations, but these are complex issues. But I want you to have awareness that how we are going to look at this problem and statement of the problem and what is we are going to offer as possible solutions. Then is it likely to fall into the realm of science or religion? We want you to try to understand all these issues.
So let's move and look at the response. So I think we've covered that.
Yeah, here this is again, this is our Vedic philosopher's view. What he says is, look at, say, this is a chair, okay, I see the chair. So that is what is mainstream scientific thinking now. A certain part of the brain is localized for the vision. Suppose I was close to that chair and I was touching it, which I cannot do it because of this size. Suppose I was touching it, then I get a sensation of touch. We have 5 senses. That is somewhere here now. So here is a part of the brain which feels the vision. Here is the part of the brain which feels the text. Is it not? But then the Vedic philosopher is saying it, I am very confident that I am touching the chair that I am seeing. Is it not? That in day-to-day life, we make such a statement. I am touching the chair that I am seeing. So if this part of the brain is seeing, that part of the brain is touching, then there has to be something which is synthesis of all this that is characterized as I, the me, who has both these components of the brain. Then only he can say, I am touching the same chair that I am seeing, is it not? Now the scientist, mainstream scientist will say, yes, this entire brain is me, I. That is why one part of this touches and one part of this sees, and that's why I am able to say I touch and sees at the same time. But then when a philosopher will say, if this whole thing is I, then 10 years ago I see my picture and I say I am the same person, but these neurons have changed in the last 10 years. So there are all kinds of arguments make it complex, and the moral of the whole story is, and that's what probably the next slide will be, this consciousness cannot be part of a matter because matter keeps on changing, keeps on transformation, and I have a strong feeling I am the same person who was there yesterday, 10 years ago, etc., etc. So the I-ness, what has that I, must be something non-physical, non-material. So that's how the argument, length of the argument goes. But let's see one by one. Now we have to go on slightly fast track. So this is another question. Because if I ask question of consciousness, which we asked, somebody could have said it. If there is a chest is expanding and contracting, there is consciousness. But that is not consciousness. That is a proof that a consciousness is residing. You know, in our philosophy, there is something which is called as Pran, life force, and something is, I am user of this system. I am the owner of body and mind. I use it, and there are certain forces that enable me use it. So, you know, we will go into all those complexities in a few moments. I just want you to appreciate it that science is very good, religions are also very good, but we are confronted with a real difficult questions where we are trying to find what is a scenario which is more optimum and which I want to gain from, and I want to pass it on to my children.
So I think the idea of consciousness is a very challenging concept. I think we can move to the answer and then get some comments, questions from the audience.
Do you accept this? This is something basically, like I see the chair, but who is finally the knower? Who says I know it? You could have an excellent camera that also sees it, that also captures the image and stores it. But you know, there is nobody in the camera who says I know it. So that is where I am aiming at. So in our philosophy we say there is a consciousness that has three extraordinary powers: to know and to feel the experience, joy and pain. You know, once you see somebody, if it is your friend, you feel good. That is experiencing part of it. And then you act upon it. You walk a few steps and shake hands. Is it not? So to know, to feel it, and to act upon it. This is called a jnata, bhokta and karta. So that is said to be three powers. But you will see it's not that easy, because I need the instrument of body and mind to utilize these powers, you know. And then just body, mind and me doesn't work, because if the respiratory system stops, I collapse, is it not? So you will see how this system is getting more and more complex. Let's go about it. Sorry, we are slightly, I would have benefited from interaction, but I leave it to Smita.
I think we're okay, we're just about okay.
I think we have 25 minutes or so, and we have about as many questions as we have now. So you will have to decide where you want to open up and how much.
No, definitely, I think it's a very challenging topic, Acharyaji, because we're now talking beyond the physical, which is your body and your mind, right, or your brain. And so it's getting into the realm of consciousness.
This is also very interesting. What is mind is also something very difficult. So whether you just slip from mind and then to the brain, because mind is also, as you will see in the next few slides, mind is something very different from what you were expecting. So it's getting very, very complex now.
So Acharyaji, are all these three things not scientific? I mean, this is scientific. You know,
that question will be asked at the end.
So I have one comment here. You know, we talk about I, who am I, and all that. But the reality is that is a reflection of what we have taught ourselves from our upbringing. So when a child is born, the child doesn't know I. The child doesn't know, you know what. But there is some science in the child, whether it's brain, mind, chemicals, hormones, whatever reactions are taking place. There is the optical mechanism that is absorbing light and doing whatever. So all these three things are supported by science. I don't believe that there is anything here that is beyond science. This is purely part of
jump to the conclusion. There are more things coming.
Right.
But I know what you are saying. These are important observations. He's talking as a father, what is the upbringing of a child. You know, let's look at a practical aspect. You tell your child that, look, 5 years later, this will happen and you have to prepare yourself for that. Is it not? You will go to college and these are the issues. You make him think for future and you want him to live. Now try to imagine somebody who is asking, what is purpose of my life? Then what will you say? What is the purpose of it? So these are questions where you have to try to understand what I am basically and what could be the purpose of my life. Because at our age, when we are, at least in my age, when I am on downslide, I am asking, what have I used my life? What is the end of it? What do I take away from here? Is it not? So then there are many, many more complex questions to ask. So we are getting into that.
I think just a quick comment, just building on what Sanjay just said. So while I have siblings and I have children, I have two boys. My sibling and I, my boys, they share DNA genes, right? And then they share the same upbringing and environment. Yet they are very different. I was very different. I'm a very different person than my brother, and I see my boys as very different human beings also. So I think it's beyond the physical, because there are a lot of physical attributes that you share going back to your DNA and your genetics and your same upbringing and your environment, and yet you are different as a person. So the consciousness.
No,
that
because
is still supported by science. I mean, the reality is that the comment that Acharyaji made, that I see this chair and I touch this chair and all of that stuff, that I itself is because I have been taught from childhood that
because
I
it's me,
is this.
yeah.
And if I was not taught like that, and I was taught from the day one that I am not it and there is something else that's driving it, my belief would be that.
Right.
So it's all a question. I don't necessarily agree entirely or subscribe to this thought that these three comments or these three actions are coming purely because there is something ultra scientific. It is part of science only, and the science is making that happen now. Sometimes we don't necessarily subscribe to it, or we're not able to, I don't have answers to it, so I can understand that I might say, okay, let's go to faith to find the answer. But there are people who can prove this, that you can know, feel and act by science. Everything is happening by science in the body.
So I think this is an attempt to not just, attribute everything to your faith, but to try to reason out and explain why we are different as human beings. In spite of being taught the same thing, we all perceive life differently, we make different decisions, right? And so that goes back to, I think, what Acharya is referring to as your inner consciousness. But more to come on that?
I want to make one comment.
Okay.
Vedaji said exactly the right thing in response to what you were saying, that it's our upbringing. But we have done studies of identical twins, born in the same family, raised in the same family, going to the same schools, and yet making entirely different decisions. So it's not just DNA. The consciousness is something beyond your DNA, beyond your body, beyond your mind.
Yeah, what we are seeing is a lot of complexity, and that is the purpose of this presentation, that how we together, we are all one now, our common goal is what are we passing on to our children, how, because they will also face these questions, these kind of issues, and how are we preparing them with something, that's what is our common goal.
So moving on, next question, can consciousness arise from matter? Any takers? And you pick.
Well, if you stick with the way you define your mind, then probably yes.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I already said yes.
सुमेधा जी आपने जो बताया, I think आपने और संजय जी आपके दोनों के definition similar थे. But I think you made that point clear. Consciousness जो है, that's beyond that self-identity. If that is the case, then it can't be matter. You can't come up with attributes, attach attributes to that consciousness.
So I have another clarification to that. I think he's making a point, and आपने जो बोला उस point पे भी valid है. The concern is that even if they are twins, upbringing is same, everything is same, DNA is same, genes are same, everything was same. But the reality is that we have discovered today that sanity and insanity can be attributed to some hormone or chemical reaction occurring in your mind or brain. Okay, and there are at least from scientific standpoint, legal cases where they will make a decision that the person was insane at that moment when they made that decision. But that was not consciousness from outside. That was purely scientifically proven that they were doing an act as a result of some chemical reactions that took place, which may have been a result of their own doing, because the way the body science works, and I'm not an expert in this, but I'm just arguing for the sake of us understanding better, or me understanding better, that it is very possible that those reactions are actually a result of how some other chemical reactions are taking place in our body that give rise to those reactions, which result in those different behaviors in the two people who were siblings and were brought in the same environment. That's possible. I'm just
are you talking about somebody being under the influence of alcohol?
It could be anything. I'm not talking of alcohol at all.
Or cocaine?
No.
Because then I can see its consciousness changes at that time.
But so now that itself proves the point.
No. But the consciousness, I hope, the one that we're talking about, is the one that has the ability and the one that I will closely identify with conscience. The one that ultimately makes you decide, okay, my wife left me, she has this boyfriend, am I going to go kill that boyfriend? And I'm going to say, good riddance, you live your life, I live my life.
But I mean,
There's a
if there was
certain
something
consciousness-
outside.
No, that's that consciousness that lives within you, in spite of having the brain and the body of the same, the blue-eyed or the blonde or the black or the white or the brown.
See,
It's
but I
something
would not-
beyond that makes the decision at that particular time that me as a person, as consciousness, as me, as Vasudha, I do not do this and I take this decision.
See, to
That
me
is
there
me and this is my consciousness and
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
different from you and you and me.
I think it's a very, very obviously complex
Don't
topic.
you
as
think
it
it's
was
the
a-
circumstances? So our mind generates our logics based on the circumstances, right? So even though you're talking about two twins under the same family, same genes, but they have been through the different circumstances. As a result of that, they have developed the different logics in their mind for the
What
two
different
things.
circumstances?
Alright, so-
We're in the same college, same everything.
They cannot be same.
Wait a
हाँ yes, I agree with that. पूर्व जन्म के संस्कार.
One thing I can observe very well is the purpose of this presentation is exceedingly good because I wanted you all to
We'll do round
appreciate
circle,
how
sitting in
difficult
there.
are these issues, how difficult are the challenges we are facing, and yet 2 hours a week we are trying to convey something which is sensible to our children and their parents. So this was one important way for you to appreciate that there is no clear answer. Science has no clear answer. Multiple religions don't have clear answers. They are more faith-based. And in this whole situation, we are trying to present a particular narrative. We don't say that is all 100% good, that is reasonable, and that's what I am trying to you to appreciate it, how difficult is the situation, and that particular narrative, you will see that it is not senseless, though it is not 100% strong truth. It is all like we started with the story. It's all gray here, not black and white. Let's now go very super fast so that you at least know that purpose is already met. What I wanted by making it an interactive presentation. Let's
So I
go
think there's a
fast.
quick review of the response. Can
Yeah.
consciousness arise
So
from
we have
that?
made, so here I am just making an observation. Human beings have made all kinds of things you can imagine, but none of those things are behaving like a conscious thing, is it not? We have made so many material things, but somehow consciousness didn't arise out of that. So it tempts us. I'm not saying this is the answer, but we are following a particular narrative that consciousness is not something, is not an attribute of matter, and no matter how you mix all those material things, it does not take birth. So we are coming up with a very unusual concept, and that's why the scientists are finding it difficult to absorb, though they are scientists, because they are not used to that. So here comes an idea that something exists but it is not made of matter, it is non-material. Now, this is very a wild speculation, I will say, but that's the idea the Vedic philosophy has, and that has nothing but property of consciousness, is it not? So I like to explain it as, just look at a lamp. We know all these many kinds of lamps. They have a tiny filament. So if you are thinking, if you are used to calculus and mathematical thinking, take the limit that that filament goes to zero side, like we do it delta x going to zero. So if that filament goes to zero, but it still emits light, I hope you can imagine that. Now you imagine that there is something like a delta function which is zero everywhere, has a spike at one point, but it is emitting not the light, physical light, but light of consciousness. Are you able to feel what I am saying? So this is their concept of Vedic scientist, if you can call him a scientist. He is saying that we all have something here which is a point-like singularity, but it is emitting light of consciousness. So now that light is coming here, my hands are here. When I go to bed, I withdraw that consciousness, then this will not have that thing. And if I withdraw too much inside, even my mind doesn't have it, then there are no dreams and all that. So this is a concept of non-physical consciousness, which is what I am, and I am the owner of my body and mind. Let's go on further then.
So
Next. So is it true? That's what you hear, body, mind and soul. So Miraji also started it, but I am using a word self here. I don't want to bring a lot of complexities. Now I am asking, is it true to say, I am body, mind and self? Of course the answer is, this is not true. Let's move on. Yes, okay, one way it is true. I am the owner of body and mind. So this is not that my mind is giving it to consciousness. I have a consciousness that is mine. Then I have the instruments of body and mind. Let's move on further then.
I think the next one is very interesting, what Chandra was talking about, food life.
Do I carry some impressions of past life? You know, I am just bringing it because one thing you may not be, you might have heard of, that our soul is imperishable. Most of you have heard it, is it not?
Yes.
Because that is non-physical, that never dies, never takes birth and all that. So some of you will be surprised that the same statement is true with our mind also. Our mind is also imperishable. That also doesn't take birth, doesn't die, and it is always sticking to the self. You know, this may be new to some of you, but that's the story we are trying to say. Because mind is the carrier of, because now as Vasudhaji made some observation about identical twins and all that, these are issues scientists are struggling with. But what we are, I think you are familiar with these terms, we take this birth with some sanskars are already coming from previous life. There is a term called sanskar, which I have translated here as impression. So impression cannot be put on the self, because that is non-physical, is it not? So the carrier of that sanskar is my mind. So my mind is enveloping me, and that's how I entered into my father's body, got transported into my mother's body, and then layer after layer, so that's what I am. And when I die, those same thing will go again. And in this life, I am killing certain previous sanskar and adding some new sanskar. So this is all, life is a journey. Let's move on now. Now there will be a new concept of power. You will see it. Let's see. Next. How are self and mind? So as I said, this is what Upanishad is saying. A thumb in the fist. This is what I am. Self enveloped by mind, which has all, mind is like my bank passbook, so to say, which has all the data in it, is it not? And then I am asking, is this plus this body, this is what I am, body, mind and self. So let's see what is the answer. Now borrowing an analogy from Sankhya in Kapil's Swami. What he is saying is, a picture frame, very interesting statement. a picture frame is always mounted on a wall, is it not? So look at four words here. A picture has a frame and then is mounted on a wall. How do you mount it? There is a hook, is it not? So a picture frame is mounted on the wall via a hook. Is it okay? Otherwise the frame is just lying, nobody sees it. Now what Kapil is trying to teach us, the self and mind. Self is the real picture which is put in the frame. So this is self, this is the mind. Now this is going into my mother's body, womb, where I will have a body, but something will connect to that. That is the hook. And that hook is called the non-voluntary forces which are already found. Now there is a new concept is coming. Body, mind and self is not the total description. There is something which are non-voluntary forces, which are 5 kinds of forces: nervous system, respiratory, cardiac, digestive and renal system. So one of this stops functioning, I collapse, is it not? It's like the hook has given up, is it not? So now what we are saying is, in medical terminology, death is when this pran stops functioning. Pran is these forces which enable me to use my body and mind, is it not? That is not consciousness. I am residing in the system, that is my consciousness. But if pran stops to work, I leave this system, is it not? So death is actually departure of me from this body, because now it is no more livable, is it not? So from scientific point of view, if some respiratory function is on, he is alive, he is conscious, is it not? But we won't say that. What we will say, his pran is functioning and he is still alive, he is there. But if his pran stops, maybe in a few moments, the departure takes place. So you have to be careful. Pran is not my consciousness. Pran is a symptom that consciousness is still there and pran enables me to reside in the system. Is that clear to you? So like it is a house, somebody is living in the house, you see from a distance. But somebody will say, when this particular light is on, he is always there. Now somebody says, when that light is on, he is there. Then a scientist will say, no, that light is on is incidental. He is there because I can see him direct. Are you seeing the difference? So pran is there, life force is there because the owner is there. Is it not? And that pran is there doesn't mean that itself is consciousness. The light is not consciousness. Is it not? I hope you have understood, otherwise we will spend more time. Let's move on.
So you're making a distinction between mind and brain?
Excuse me?
You're making a distinction between mind and brain?
Are you
The brain functions are pranic functions. When all that is happening in the brain enables me and my mind to stay there. That is kind of my housing.
No. The brain can be dead. The brain is dead almost, and people are lying there for 6 months without any activity, and they're hooked on.
I don't know, we can discuss it later.
Yeah, okay.
My hearing is also bad, so.
That's fine.
Can we give you a water break, or shall I move on to the next question?
Yeah, let's go fast now because.
Take water.
So we are more than body mind. Yes, that is what will be explained next. Yes, we are. Body and mind are interspersed with the pranic forces. That is kind of hook we have now. I hope you understand. The body is like the wall. The pranic forces are like the hook which is holding the picture, and self is the real picture inside, and mind is the frame outside. If the hook gives up, then the picture frame falls, is it not? So I hope you understand it. Hook gives up doesn't mean that consciousness has gone. These are two independent, though they happen simultaneously. The departure of self from the system, because it is no more livable, because the hook has given up. The pranic forces have ceased. But pranic forces So it is like death. But consciousness is not from the pranic forces. Is it not? I hope you understand. Consciousness is the property of the self. Pranic forces just enable it to reside in the system.
So would you say, Acharya, that the body and the pranic forces are the physical and the mind and self is the non-physical?
Yeah. Even pranic forces is physical is right. But you know, these are forces. You don't see a force. You see the motion due to the force. The chest is expanding one, but you don't see that force which is causing it. The compassion and, you know, that kind of force.
So when the body is dead, the departure takes place of pranic force, mind and self.
So here again I will have a problem.
When body is dead, does it mean that it is the departure of the mind, soul and the pranic forces?
Yeah, actually death is the separation of this, which was me and my mind, from this whole system. That is death. Now this happens because pranic forces have ceased to function. So now a scientist may say, the brain is dead, so he is dead. I also accept that. But for me, it is brain is dead, that is why my owner has decided to leave this system. So I have two things which are coincidental, but I want to separate it because consciousness was not coming from God. You know, consciousness is coming from self.
So I think the next question makes
Now
it
we
more
go very
scientific.
fast.
Yes. So how can we prove?
Because we started with the science. If we have excellent narrative, can we prove it? That is the question. So Vinayji had a nice flow chart. This has to be quantifiable and then all that. So that is the same question. How can we prove this narrative? So what did the Vedic rishis do? Let's listen to it. We are body, pranic forces, mind and soul. Now there are two things being said. One is what is called deep dreamless sleep. In deep dream sleep, body and mind are inactive but the self is unaware of itself. Is that okay? Sometimes once in a while, it's not every day you have this sleep, but once in a while you have deep dreamless sleep. And when you wake up, you feel you are out of the world. Is it not? You have had it. Is it not? Try to gather that experience because there was no dream, you were out of the world. And in those hours of sleep, you have no awareness about your own, where you were. You have no idea how long you slept. Is it not? Because nothing was happening. For you, the world was frozen. Nothing was happening. Even that, you didn't have awareness of your own self. It was total blackout, what is called. So that is observation number one. Now, Vedic Rishi is trying to say, let us create a replica of that in the daytime when I am alert. So that they call it meditation. So what is he saying? Let us go deep in meditation. So now we want to capture a state where mind is as inactive as it was in deep rest, which is not easy to do it. Some of you are doing meditation with me. We will do it again here today, but it's not easy. But that is what we are aiming at. And suppose we succeed in that, then what will happen? That's what they are telling us. Deep in meditation, body and mind are inactive, almost like in deep dreamless sleep. But now you will feel that your self has preserved its awareness. You know, you are doing like this. And suppose your mind is as inactive as it was in deep sleep, dreamless sleep, then they are saying, now it is not that you are not aware of yourself, you have left with your own awareness. And then they say, that is what you are. So that is what is self. It is something beyond your body and mind. So it's not mathematically you say this, but if many people do that, they also report like this, they also report like that, then scientists are going to be forced to think. They will also learn to do meditation, and then they will say, yes, there is something beyond my mind, and that is what is me. So this is the proof, evidence for this I am body, mind and self, which are functional due to the pranic force. Let's go fast. I think there are 2 or 3 more things. I'm now going very fast. I am just saying how do we make things like a wooden podium here. So, we haven't seen the carpenter who made it, but when I see it, so this is called as a logical argument, because we haven't seen a carpenter, but still we are 100% confident a carpenter made it, is it not? So this is treated as a provable statement, because it cannot come by itself. A carpenter has made it. How did he make it? He made it out of wood. Why did he make it? Because we placed an order, we are using it. So there are 3 causes behind an effect, what is called. So that's a scientific investigation, is it not? How did it come into being? So I have not seen the causes, but I am trying to logically come out with a framework. And now here, you notice on the right side, I am saying carpenter is maker, because he has knowledge how to make it, and he acted upon the wood. Remember those 3 extraordinary powers: knowing, experiencing, and acting, is it not? Knowing and feeling it, and then doing something. So carpenter has a conscious being who has the ability to know, he has the design in his mind, and then he has the ability to act upon a log of wood, cut pieces and all that. The wood is a material thing which gets transformed. Carpenter doesn't get transformed much. And then there is an end user who is also a conscious being, who is enjoying it, who feels happy when he receives it, is it not? So there are 3 causes for a simple object like this. Carpenter made the podium out of wood for us to use. Now I am extrapolating it to the natural world. Let's go to the next slide. What can be said? Let's go to the next slide again. Just like carpenter made the podium out of wood for us to use it, we say there is another consciousness. Now, because we didn't make sun and moon and all that thing, we are making a conjecture that there is another infinite consciousness. We give it a name, Ishwar, made the whole universe like podium. Instead of wood, these are fundamental particles, and we are the end user who are also conscious beings. Is it not? Like I am the end user for the podium. Now all animals, birds, human beings are. So now we are getting into another consciousness, that is infinite consciousness. Previously we talked about my individual consciousness. And for that we said, yes, if I go deep in meditation, I can feel it beyond body and mind. Now let's ask this question again next time. Is there an evidence of Ishwar besides these arguments? I'm asking this question. Next, let's say what is the answer here. Now again, we will have to listen to this carefully. Again, that same Vedic Rishi who says, when I go deep in meditation, he goes deep in meditation, then he realizes my mind is inactive, I have self-awareness. Is it not? And that is the proof that there is some non-material thing stays behind inside the mind. And now he says, just like we enjoy sleep, whenever we have that deep sleep, we say it was good. Now this Rishi is saying, whenever I go deep in meditation, I feel good. He is reporting like that. And if many people report like that, then the question arises, what makes you feel good? Is it not? What makes you feel good in deep meditation? Now that goodness, whatever you call it, anand or whatever it is this not your own attribute because you are alone at that time? Then Rishi says, no, that could not be my attribute. If it was mine, I should always be in anand, which is not the case. So what happens? When I go deep in meditation, I connect to Ishwar and I borrow his anand. So that becomes the proof or evidence of Ishwar. Are you getting it?
No, sir.
So the whole picture I am trying to build up. Of course, now we have to go on a fast track, but it becomes an argumentative logic sense of a sequence of argument, which is so-called, finally, what is called Atma Sakshatkar and Ishwar Sakshatkar. So this is a particular narrative. We don't have to say we agree with it, but this is a narrative which I think will strengthen our children so that they can face the situation. They can plan their life in a more optimal sensible manner. Here we are not saying I am not body. Here we are not saying we don't enjoy food. Everything is as it is, but try to have a higher purpose of life. Look at beyond what is so much visible to your eyes and make some more sense about the purpose of your life. So this is where I wanted to end today, giving you what kind of fundamental principles are guiding us. As you have seen, there are a lot of complexities. It's not easy to say this has to be true, this cannot be true, because there is no correct 100% truth available in the bazaar, is it not? So we have to make sense out of what is best available with us and let him be aware of, because there is no other place in the world where this kind of narrative will be taught to him. Let our child be aware of it, then he has whatever he wants to do with it. So that's what I wanted to convey to you, and tomorrow I will be spending time in what is the mechanism, how do we want to, as you have seen, it's very complex things we have taken up. 2 hours a week, the children and parents are here. As far as Naitik Shiksha is concerned, only 40 minutes. So within the 40 minutes a week, in 30 weeks, we want to give them a particular thought process and to their parents also, and hope that this will equip them when they grow up and face the situation. Just like today I have got a text message, very unusual. It is saying some survey, they are meeting the college children who call themselves Hindu, and they are not able to tell what is their belief pattern. They say we are pagans, we are this, we are that, and you know, a common Hindu is very vulnerable. They get converted very easily, and an ordinary Muslim also knows it, ordinary Christian also knows it. But here we want to strengthen our children that they can defend, take a position and defend it. And that is what we are aiming. Yes, it is very important, you please come here and say something. Otherwise, I wanted to end it with meditation.
Very quickly, with your permission, when we started session, I was wondering religion and science, what are we going to end? Where are we going to culminate this discussion? If you allow me,
next slide is that.
So
Let's see the next
yeah. So if you allow me, I thought.
So I want you to go home and think about this question. So the whole story we have said, and that was not the objective, to impress upon you that one narrative is better than others. I wanted you to appreciate that questions are very, very complex questions. And here we want to equip something with our children with that they can preserve, they can utilize in their day-to-day life.
So Acharya, what I was saying that this topic, if you allow me the narrative, I put like this: is the science important for religion? Is science important for the religion? So I was thinking that yes, science is very important for the existence, for survival, and for the expansion of the religion. In Hindu religion, when Babur came, Mughals came, we were fighting with swords. There was cannon came first time. That is one example, and it had in few centuries, it has a big impact on Hinduism.
I don't want to cut you short,
yeah.
But I didn't have that much time as I would have liked it.
If you give me 2 minutes,
but if you have understood me properly, you will probably realize the way I wanted to build up my building blocks. I wanted you to come up with a conclusion that I am presenting a narrative which is actually scientific, where I am trying to say I am on the side of science plus a concept of non-physical consciousness. And even science is admitting they don't have a clear understanding of consciousness today. So I will say I am on the side of science, and it is supplemented with a concept that consciousness is not an attribute of matter, but it is an independent thing, which is a non-material thing, and that is what I am. So I see I am more close. I am on the side of
okay, I really think I have to cut it short now.
I think Meera, you can sum up.
No, I
Okay.
think we should not look at religion and science as poles apart. We should look at religion only if it is scientifically fits our thinking. Rational.
We are encouraging questions, our children also. We want them to ask more and more questions.
So obviously,
We are not trying to say these are ideas which you must accept. Let them be aware of all kinds of narratives. Because scientific mainstream narrative, they will be well known to them. That is what they will study in schools and colleges. So here, in short span, 40 minutes a week, we are trying to tell them one more narrative which may be of use to them.
So obviously what we did today was just a flavor of what we want to continue every Sunday at Arya Samaj. Of course, after the session, if you have immediate questions, Ajay is available. But he is here every Sunday with us at the school, and of course he has classes weekday as well. So the opportunity, the inquisitiveness is much encouraged. Your participation was awesome. Thank you very much. A big round of applause for Harish.